Welcome to the Elite Life Podcast with your hosts, Trisha and Kylie. Here, we guide you on a journey of personal and professional transformation, revealing the secrets to success. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, join us as we unlock the doors to the elite world of growth, grit, and grace. So, let's dive in.
What up, fam? Welcome to another episode of the Elite Life Podcast. I'm Kylie. That's Trish. And today we are demystifying inspections and appraisals.
Fun.
We're glad you're here. So we wanted to put this episode together. We are in the throes of house hunting with our clients, right? The listings are coming. The offers are coming. People are selling, people are buying, people are renting, and they want to do all of that this month. So we decided July is house month. We're talking about house stuff.
It's the busiest month of the year for realtors.
Yeah, I do not take vacations.
No, there are no vacations in July, period. End of story.
The end.
The end.
That's
why we're going through all this stuff in July, though, because there are a lot of myths and misconceptions around different types of inspections and who does what, who pays for what is necessary and what is needed and what is just maybe something you might want to do. I want to start with a disclaimer that most things are just based on your personal risk tolerance. That's what I explain to people. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, should I do a private inspection or not do a private inspection? I'm like, look, when I started in this business in 2003, I'm old AF. Nobody did a private inspection. Zero people did private inspections.
Oh my gosh, I could not buy a house without one.
I didn't even know that home inspectors, I knew no home inspectors. In 2003, 0 people ever did home inspections, okay? Then we went through a long period of time where everybody did home inspections, everybody and their grandmas. Now we are in a space where it's about 60-40. 60% of people do home inspections, 40% of people waive them to get their offers accepted because we are in such a super competitive market. Now, I will tell you, a lot of people who do home inspections are just because they're with realtors like you who have always done home inspections. And so you say you shouldn't buy one without them, and they trust you and they listen to you and they do one. And that is totally fine.
I would not buy a house without a home inspection. I want to know what I'm getting into.
That's only because that's how you were raised up. If you started in real estate in 2003, the first 5 years of your career, you would have never done a home inspection.
I guess my biggest thing for home inspections is I'm not a handy person, right? So when I'm personally shopping for a house, I want someone who knows what they're looking at to tell me about the big ticket items. I don't care about the GFIs. I don't care about the trim or the crack or like whatever. I care about, is my foundation solid? Is my roof solid? Are my mechanics solid? Those are the big ticket items, because if I'm throwing all of my money down in a down payment to buy this house, I'm going to have this many dollars left to replace the roof in a year and a half. I'm going to have this many dollars left to deal with a foundation issue. And so I'm glad that we had this conversation, because we've got two kind of schools of thought here. Yeah. The one thing I will not do anymore is sewer scopes.
Well, so we are starting obviously with private home inspections. So
yes, that's what we're talking about.
A private home inspection is arranged by the buyer and it's conducted by a professional home inspector. Now, one thing I want to make very clear is in the state of Michigan, home inspectors are not licensed. They are not they don't have
certified.
Any registration with the state of Michigan. They have no certification from the state of Michigan. So that needs to be said, because people think that they're licensed home inspectors or they're certified home inspectors. They are not. And why I want to really, really, really showcase this, and if you take nothing else from this episode, take this. Do not just Google home inspectors, because who know nothing about your HVAC system, I can go and charge you $800 for a home inspection, go through and be like, yeah, I think it's good. You give me $800. I inspected your house. I don't have to be licensed. I don't have to be certified. I don't have to be anything at all except walking through and inspecting your house. My definition of inspecting your house could be very different than anybody else's definition of inspecting your house. There's no guarantee, there's no certification, there's no licensing. So what do? You lean on your realtor who you know, like, and trust, and utilize the people that they know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
Many good private home inspection companies have a buyback guarantee. So I do my inspections through up-close inspections. Part of their inspections is a buyback guarantee. So if there is something that they miss, you can make them buy your home back.
The house?
The whole house.
Stop it.
Dead serious.
Nuh-uh.
Nuh-uh.
Oh, my goodness.
That's why I use up-close.
I love that.
So a private inspection, tell them what it is.
Okay, so they are evaluating the home's condition. So essentially, a good home inspector is going to go top to bottom. They're going to get on the roof. They're going to get under the roof. They're looking at your chimney. They are looking at the insulation. They are going literally top to bottom. They're testing every single electrical outlet. They're running the water. They're checking the plumbing. If you have septic or well, a lot of them can also test the water, test the functionality. They literally go top to bottom, like I said, and they give you a comprehensive report of every single thing they found. Now, like I said earlier, this is not something that you want to use in order to nickel and dime the sellers.
No.
Like we live in Michigan. Every single attic has organic growth, okay? It has mold. Every crawl space has mold.
It has mold-like substance.
Okay, whatever.
It's important to say because people get freaked out by the word mold. And not all molds are created equally. The mold that we find in Michigan attics are moisture mold because the roofs aren't vented properly. Just like when you're in the bathroom and you haven't cleaned your bathroom enough and you get that black mold-like substance.
Yeah.
That is very different than toxic mold you're going to die from.
Right. Exactly. So it's just a fact of life where we live. But really, like I said before, their job is to tell you everything that's going on with the house. Their job is to tell you what you're getting into and what's happening with the big ticket items. So for example, if you're buying an older home, we have so many clients who are coming in and they're buying these beautiful historic homes in Pontiac, in Detroit. A lot of them have the old cloth wiring, right? Or, it's not been updated, things like that. That's the crap you want to know. You want to know, if I buy this house, what am I getting into? Mm-hmm. And you're able to take that inspection report, which is easily 30 pages at a minimum, and you're able to say, okay, here's what I can live with. Here's what I need to budget for. Here are my deal breakers.
Yeah, and that's what I make sure when I do my buyer's education session. I'm like, we're doing this home inspection to look for deal breakers. Like you said, not to nickel and dime a seller. You're getting a honey-do list of, watch this might happen, there's this much life left on this or that. Usually home inspections, they cost anywhere from $300, $500, $700, $800. It depends on the size of your house.
The age of the house. Septic and well.
Yeah. Make sure you ask ahead of time if they do septic and well, because not all home inspectors do septic and well. Not all home inspectors do mold testing if you need that, or a water testing if you need that, or radon testing. Some areas need radon testing. Make sure that you ask the home inspector all of those questions ahead of time. Usually realtors, like, I give a list of 3 and I say, here's 3 home inspectors that we know, like, and trust and use in our office. This is the one I use most often, but please feel free to call all 3, get quotes, get availability, make sure they do what you want them to do.
Absolutely.
And that is up to you. If for some reason, mom is pushing really hard for you to get a sewer scope, you get a sewer scope. If mom is pushing really hard for you, get a radon test because she used to have radon in her house and she found it and blah, 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 blah. Absolutely, right? But we are getting a list to assess. But this is also personal choice on how much risk you're willing to take. Is your house like condos? A lot of times people don't do them on condos because you're only responsible for what you can see. And if the condo is like new construction and it has new appliances in it, like, what's really gonna
What are we
gonna
inspecting?
break, right? So just think about that. It depends on how much you're willing to spend, how much risk you're willing to take on, and then remember, like, I mean, I did say Up Close has a buyback guarantee, but they don't catch everything. You may move in and then your AC goes out. They're not going to buy your house back for that. You may move in and then your plumbing starts to leak. Like, they don't have a crystal ball to know what's going to happen in the future. This is just taking some of the risk off of your plate.
Absolutely. So so that's one inspection, private inspections. Let's talk about city inspections.
Okay.
I feel like you've had a lot more experience with this because I feel like, number one, you've been in the game a little bit longer than me. And then the areas that I sell in, there are no city inspections.
Yeah, it's very area specific in Michigan. And again, you may be listening to this in another country or another state or another wherever. But in Michigan, we mostly see our city inspections in Wayne County. A couple cities in Oakland County. I don't think I've seen them in any other counties that I can think of off the top of my head. And there may be other ones, but a lot of cities in Wayne County have them. I'd say probably
Mostly Wayne County. Definitely Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit, Inkster, Westland, Wayne, Garden City, Dearborn Heights. A lot of the cities in Westland have them. And what they are is usually, and this can vary again city to city and situation to situation, usually the seller orders, if you are in a city where the city requires a city inspection prior to selling your home. How do you find this out?
Also called a C of O, Certificate of Occupancy.
Also called C of O, Certificate of Occupancy, but they call it a pre-sale inspection is what you have to get first. So call the city that you live in, if you live in Wayne County, the building department, and say, do you require pre-sale inspections of a home to sell a home in your city? Now, some cities will just say only if it's a rental or only if it's been vacant for this long. And some cities will say no, and some cities will say yes. So usually the seller orders that pre-sale inspection and the city comes out, and what they are looking at is city codes.
Yep.
They don't care if you get in the house and everything goes to pieces. They want to make sure your breaker box is updated to the city code, right? You don't have screw-in fuses, you have push-button breakers. They want to make sure, your laundry tub is drilled into the basement floor. I had to do that, which is so weird. They want to make sure you have enough smoke detectors. They called me on smoke detectors. They called me on a dripping sink. I will also, in my opinion, I think a lot of times these are money grabs for cities because you have one inspector who comes in, they list these repairs, then you have a different inspector that comes in, they look at different sinks and different things, and then they give you some more stuff to do and you have to pay. And then you have another inspector that comes in and he's like, okay, now you're finally done. Here's your certificate of occupancy. You're now legally allowed to occupy the property. So how it often happens in our scenarios is the seller orders pre-sale inspection. You get a little list of all the stuff the city's going to make you address. And then listing agents upload those with their listing. This is how like a really nice one will go. Listing agent uploads it with their listing. Buyers are able to look at the city inspection and say, yes, I'm willing to take on those repairs after closing to get my certificate of occupancy and move in. Or no, this is way too much work that the city wants. I can't afford new cement on the sidewalk in the driveway. I'm going to pass on this. Okay. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes you're buying a bank-owned home. A bank-owned home, the bank's going to say buyer has to order the city inspection and assume all repairs. So if you want to buy that bank-owned home, you're on your own. That's it, period.
Yeah.
You got to order it. You got to assume the repairs. You got to do it all. I will also put in there that sometimes the city will allow you to have a temporary CFO and you can move in, but they want to come and see that you're making some progression on your laundry list of repairs that need to be done. A friend of mine bought a house in Wayne. She had pages. It was old. It was like a 1900 house.
Aww.
So it had pages upon pages of stuff. She didn't have a lot of money. It took her over a year to get her certificate of occupancy. And it's weird because it's a certificate to occupy the property, but she was already in there and living there. And they just would come every couple months and make sure she was ticking things off of the list.
Yeah.
And then they gave her formal C of O, and then, you know, she's good to go and you're good to live in the house. You don't have to like re-up those every so often or anything like that.
Yeah, and the one thing I have noticed too is like if there's things on the list like Trisha mentioned, redoing the sidewalk. Obviously, if it's January, we can't do cement work, so they'll give you like a deferral on that.
Yeah. And it's important to know the difference, because sometimes people will be like, oh, I don't need a private inspection because there's a city inspection. That's not true. They're two different inspections, and the city inspection is for the city. Your private inspection is for you, and they are looking at different things. The city just wants to make sure that permits were pulled, your electrical's up to date, plumbing's up to date, all of those things are up to date, and it's like hitting health and safety standards. Whereas your private inspection is like, yeah, you have this many years left on your roof, you have this many years left on your hot water tank, budget for this. It's not, a private inspection is like 1,000 times more comprehensive and detailed as a city inspection. A city inspection is just looking, are you checking these boxes?
Absolutely. So let's move on to appraisals. So an appraisal determines the fair market value of a property, and it's typically required by lenders to ensure that the loan amount is appropriate. So once you have your private inspection, if you have a contingency on that, you remove that, your lender is going to send out a person called an appraiser. So for those of you who don't know, an appraiser is just like a third-party person who comes in. They're in there for like 20 minutes. They might take a couple pictures. They might do some measurements, but overall, they're taking a look at the house. They're making some notes, and their job is to go find other comps, other homes that have sold in the area, see how they compare, and come up with evaluations so that your lender can know, hey, if our client, our buyer, is offering to buy this house for $300,000, we want to make sure that it's worth $300,000 so that our buyer's not upside down the road, right?
Yeah, it's really ensuring it's funny because a buyer pays for an appraisal, but like you said, it's very much for the bank. The bank wants to know that if you default on your mortgage and they get that house back, that they're going to get their money out of it, right? That it's ensuring that that house is actually worth that value. So they're not looking at really your health and safety standards unless you have an FHA or a VA appraisal, which we talked about in another episode. Check out the differences between mortgages episode. They are looking at, okay, other brick 1,300 square foot homes. And this is what they look at. The last 6 months of sales in the city, like Detroit, Flint, they're looking within a quarter mile. In the suburbs, they're looking like within a half mile. Maybe they'll go out a mile. They don't cross cities. They don't cross main roads. They don't cross railroad tracks. And then in rural, they want to stay as close as possible, but definitely within the city. I've seen rural people, like rural listing agents, start running comps for their clients in other counties. Just because it's in the country doesn't mean you can go to another county.
No.
You can't go to another county. You shouldn't be going to other cities. You should be staying within your city if it's rural. If it's a suburb, you should be in the same subdivision, okay? Right. You can't just say, oh, houses in Westland go for this, or houses in Clarkston go for this, or houses in Waterford go for this. That is not applicable. What is within a half a mile of your house? It's sold in the last 6 months. Not what is up for sale, what is closed and sold. Because Kylie could put her house up for sale today for $2 million. It doesn't mean anybody's paying $2 million for it.
Ain't nobody paying $2 million for my house. Not a single person.
So a listing price is just somebody's opinion, but so is an appraised value. So I want to remind people of this too. You may have said, I'll buy this house for $150,000, and your agent may have ran comps and said it should appraise for $150,000, and then your appraisal comes back for $125,000. If you're getting a loan from Rocket Mortgage, that happens all the time because those appraisers work for Rocket Mortgage. So they in no way, shape, or form want to give you the highest or even the most competitive value. They're going to be very conservative because they want Rocket to only lend this amount so that if you foreclose, no matter what, they're making money off of it, right?
Yeah.
So pay attention and think about those.
So what do we do if we get the valuation back and we disagree?
You can do a rebuttal on appraisal. I would say, so first they go to the appraiser and they say, will you please relook at the comps? But here's the thing. Anytime you go and tell somebody they don't know how to do their job, are they going to be like, oh yeah, you're totally right. I know I'm licensed to do this and it's my job, but you're right. I did it wrong. So 9.5 times out of 10, it is a waste of your time to try to fight an appraisal. Sometimes if it is super blatant, like this is just wild. Like I had a house in Taos on the lake on Port Huron or Lake Huron. I had a house in Taos on Lake Huron. It was amazing. Like I would have loved to live there. It was freaking gorgeous. The appraiser brought it in $100,000 undervalue.
Stop.
$100,000 undervalue. And they compared it to garbage dumps. I was like, my house has heated floors. Like it is like stuff you see on TV, beautiful. And you're comparing it to like garbage dumps. So I was able to get that appraisal thrown out and get a new appraisal because it was just so blatant that the comps did not belong.
That's wild.
And we provided them with new comps. They tossed it out. They got a new appraisal. That is few and far between though. You probably would have.
That's the exception, not the rule.
You would probably have better luck. Like if you know that it's a bad appraisal, you'd probably have better luck switching it to a new lender and getting a new appraisal.
That sounds fun.
But disclaimer, if you get an FHA appraisal, that appraisal sticks with the house for 6 months.
Yay!
That's it. So if somebody blows your FHA appraisal on your property and it's a sucky appraisal, you're stuck with it. And it is what it is. So that sucks. Yeah. It is somebody's opinion. And when I sit down and I do buyer's education sessions with my clients, I let them know like this is somebody's opinion. And if Shauna's boyfriend dumped her that morning and she's feeling spicy and angry and hates the world, she could bring in your appraisal low. But also sometimes we get lucky and they bring them in high. Like there
have been a couple times where I was like, dang, we made it by the hair of our rear.
Yeah, there's no exact science. I mean, the guideline, there are guidelines, but that's not to say that it always works out that way.
Okay, and just to revisit, FHAs don't have a separate inspection. When they come to the appraisal, they are looking for things, health and safety, giving you a list, get your crap done, and I'll finance your deal.
Yeah, for sure. So just a quick rundown again, just comparing private inspections for your own private use. This is making sure you know what you're getting yourself into. City inspections, that's for the city codes.
Gotta do it.
Appraisals, they're really for the lender. You gotta do it. They're assessing the value of the house. They do look at the condition, but not as much. They don't even like flush the toilets or run the sinks usually, or they're not getting in your attic. They're not crawling in your crawl space. The only person that's going to get in your attic and crawl in your crawl space is your private inspector. So you may get all three of these things done on your house. You may get a private inspection, a city inspection, and an appraisal, and that is totally normal. They all look at different things. They all assess different things.
I love it. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you were listening while you were driving or running or doing things, make sure you grab a pen and paper. You come back to this because if you're planning on buying a home now or anytime in the next 150 years, you're going to want to have this knowledge in your tool belt, okay? You want to make sure that you have this knowledge because not all real estate agents are created equal. And so you might get hooked up with a real estate agent who has no idea what they're doing, who has no idea how to help you understand what you're getting into. And you want to make sure, you're buying a house, not a hamburger, okay? We want to make sure that we arm you with all the information that you are going to need to make sure that you get into a home that's going to be the right fit for you.
I love it. And make sure you share this with a friend because you don't know who is kicking around wanting to buy a house.
Absolutely.
You might have a sibling, a friend, a family member. Like, post this on your Facebook and share it. Share the show because a lot of people don't know what they don't know, especially about this piece of home buying. And it's important. It's very important.
It is. And a lot of real estate agents gatekeep this information. But honestly, this is definitely something that you're going to want to know. So make sure you also subscribe to the show because we bring you fresh content every Thursday here on Elite Life. So we will see you next week.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on the Elite Life Podcast with Trish and Kylie. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend so we can keep delivering you more fantastic insights on grit, grace, and growth. Stay connected with us on Instagram and Facebook, where we'll keep the ideas flowing to help you build a life you love and leave a legacy you can be proud of. Until next time.